I'm Victoria, 27, and the night my sister ripped out my oxygen tube, I honestly thought I was going to die and that she'd get away with it. She leaned over my hospital bed, smiled like we were kids again, and whispered, "Maybe now you'll stop faking it." As my lungs clawed for air, everyone believed her. The dramatic younger sister with the mystery illness versus perfect, reliable, golden child Hannah. Guess who they sided with? What she didn't know was that my father had already changed his will, and that at the reading, a calm, serious doctor would walk in and destroy the sweet, innocent image she'd built her whole life, and I was the one who made sure of it. The first real betrayal didn't happen in the hospital. It started long before the machines, the oxygen, the beeping monitors. It started in our childhood living room, with 2 sisters and 1 spotlight. My sister Hannah is 2 years older than me. Growing up, she was the golden girl, straight A student, captain of the debate team, star of every school play. She had this glossy dark hair, piercing blue eyes, and a smile that teachers adored. Parents loved to say, "You must be so proud, Margaret. Hannah is such a wonderful girl." I was the other one, the clumsy one, the emotional one, the girl who cried during movies and needed extra time in math. Dad Richard tried to balance it. He'd show up to my art shows, brag about my paintings, bring me sketchbooks from business trips. But Mom, Margaret, loved order, achievement, and predictability. That meant she loved Hannah. The first time I fainted, I was 15. I remember standing in the kitchen, about to argue with Hannah over who got the bathroom first, when the room tilted sideways. The next thing I knew, I was on the floor, my head pounding, Mom kneeling over me, shouting my name. Dad took me to the hospital. Blood tests, scans, questions. They didn't find anything obvious. The doctors said it could be stress, dehydration, anxiety. Hannah stood by the doorway, arms crossed, and said, "We have midterms coming up. Maybe she just doesn't want to take them." Mom's lips pressed into that tight line I knew too well. "Are you overwhelmed, Victoria?" she asked. You know, some people will do anything to avoid responsibility. Those words carved themselves into my brain. Over the years, my symptoms got worse. Shortness of breath, chest tightness, dizzy spells. I'd be walking up the stairs and suddenly my legs felt like concrete. My heart would race, then crash. I'd have days where I couldn't even get out of bed. We went from doctor to doctor. Some tried, some didn't. The tests were inconclusive, or not alarming enough. One specialist finally said, "Given your age and the lack of clear pathology, I'd consider a psychosomatic component. Maybe see a therapist." So now I was the dramatic younger sister and possibly crazy. Hannah latched onto that like a lifeline. At a tea dinner one night, when I couldn't finish half a plate because eating made me feel like I'd run a marathon, she laughed and said, "Vic, you should be a scriptwriter. You're so good at creating symptoms." Mom didn't correct her. She just sighed and said, "We're all tired, Hannah. Let's not make a scene." Dad, though, would squeeze my hand under the table. "We'll figure it out," he'd whisper. But time passed, and things got worse. By 25, my world had shrunk to hospital visits, medical folders, and my bedroom. I had to quit my job at a small design studio. My friends slowly stopped inviting me out. It was hard to keep saying, "Sorry, I don't feel well," over and over. Hannah's life, it only got bigger. She became a high-powered marketing executive. Her LinkedIn looked like a trophy shelf. She moved into a sleek downtown apartment with white marble countertops and big city views. She drove a luxury SUV. My parents worshipped her achievements. Whenever she visited, she'd bring expensive gifts and pointed comments. "Still in your childhood room, huh?" she asked once, eyeing my art supplies and medical equipment. "Must be cozy, or, you know, if you'd just push yourself a little more, maybe you'd feel better." No one ever got anywhere by lying around and complaining. I'd bite the inside of my cheek, tasting blood, to stop myself from crying in front of her. The real fracture came when Dad got sick. It was fast and cruel pancreatic cancer. By the time they caught it, it was already stage IV. I remember the day he sat us down in the living room. His skin already a little sallow, his shoulders thinner in his favorite blue sweater. "I don't have a lot of time," he said softly. "A few months maybe. I'm going to fight, but we have to accept reality." Mom burst into tears. Hannah hugged him saying, "No, you'll beat this. You're strong." I just sat there, numb. My heart pounded, my breath shallow. my entire body buzzing like a live wire. He turned to me and said quietly, "Vic, I want to make sure you're taken care of, especially if your health doesn't improve." Hannah's head snapped around. "What's that supposed to mean?" Dad hesitated, then said, "It means your sister might not be able to support herself the same way you can, Hannah. I've been talking to my lawyer, Miss Parker, about the will." Hannah's jaw clenched. Her eyes slid to me, cold and assessing. I knew that look. It meant I had stepped into her spotlight. From that moment, the air between us turned poisonous. My illness finally got a name 6 months later. It was a younger doctor, a pulmonologist named Dr. Emily Collins. She listened to me, really listened. She ordered specialized tests other doctors hadn't bothered with. The diagnosis: a rare autoimmune condition attacking my lungs and blood vessels. It explained the shortness of breath, the fatigue, the fainting. It was progressive. It could be managed, but it was serious. "I'm so sorry this took so long," Dr. Collins said, her brow furrowed. "You've been sick for years, and people didn't believe you, didn't they?" Something inside me cracked. I started sobbing. She handed me tissues and let me cry. "We'll start treatment immediately," she said gently. "But we also need to get you on home oxygen. Your levels are too low without support." When we told my parents, Dad hugged me so tight I thought my ribs would break. "I knew it," he whispered. "I knew something was wrong. I'm so sorry, baby. I should have pushed harder." Mom cried too, but her tears were messy: guilt, shame, fear. She couldn't look me fully in the eyes. I never meant to. She started, then trailed off. Hannah came over the next weekend. She brought expensive pastries and flowers, her usual performance. So she said lightly, after Dad explained, "They finally found something that fits." "Convenient." "Convenient?" I repeated, my voice shaking. She shrugged. "I mean, after all this time, all those tests, all that drama, and now they have a name for it. Science is amazing, right?" Dad glared at her. "Hannah." She smiled sweetly. "I'm just saying, sometimes people believe what they want to believe. Right, Vic?" I felt my oxygen tube under my fingers, the plastic warm from my breath, and thought, she still thinks I'm faking. Even now, Dad's condition deteriorated quickly. Mine did too. In a different way. He passed away on a rainy Thursday afternoon, holding Mom's hand while I sat by his bed with my oxygen cannula in, counting his breaths until there were none left to count. I didn't even have the strength to attend the funeral for long. I stood at the back, lungs burning, my vision tunneling in and out. Grief felt like trying to breathe underwater. The will was scheduled to be read a couple of weeks later, once some paperwork cleared. Mom didn't want to talk about it. Hannah did privately. One evening, she came into my room and closed the door. She looked at the oxygen machine humming beside my bed, the tubing coiled like a snake on the nightstand. "So," she began, sitting on the chair, crossing her legs, "we need to talk about what happens now." "What do you mean?" I asked. "Mom is a mess. She's not going to handle finances well. Dad always took care of everything. You're not exactly in a place to take the lead." Her eyes flicked to the tubes again. "So it's going to fall on me. I'll manage things. But I need you to be reasonable at the will reading." My stomach dropped. "Reasonable how?" "Don't make a scene if Dad left you something big. You know, he was emotional. He felt guilty about your health. And sometimes people make irrational decisions when they're emotional. I'm just asking you to think about what's fair." "What's fair?" I repeated, incredulous. "Yes, fair." She leaned forward, voice low. "I've worked my whole life. I've built a career. I've helped them financially. You've stayed home, been taken care of. Even if you're actually sick, which, sorry, I'm still not convinced about. Dad shouldn't have jeopardized everything for guilt." It felt like the air was sucked out of the room. My lungs struggled. I heard the machine's faint hiss as it compensated. "You still think I'm making this up?" I whispered. "Even with the diagnosis, the tests, the oxygen right in front of you." She rolled her eyes. "Look, lots of people exaggerate for attention, or subconsciously make themselves sicker because it's all they know. I'm not a doctor, but I am a realist." I wanted to scream, but all I could manage was, "Get out." She stood, smoothing her blazer. "Just think about what I said. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." She left without looking back. I stared at the door long after it closed, my heart pounding. That was the first night I wondered if being related to her could actually be dangerous. The night she ripped out my oxygen tube proved that it was. It was a few days before the will reading. I'd had a particularly bad flare-up and ended up hospitalized. My oxygen sats kept dropping. Anytime they tried to wean me off the mask, Dr. Collins insisted I stay for observation. Hannah came to visit. She swept into the hospital room in a crisp white blouse and high heels that clicked sharply against the floor. She smelled like expensive perfume and rain. "Well, this is dramatic," she said, looking at the monitors. "All these machines. Very cinematic." I was tired, bone deep, exhausted. "Hannah, I'm not in the mood," I rasped. She smiled and moved closer to the bed. "Well, you should be. Tomorrow's the big day. The will." I talked to Mom. "She's fragile. I really hope you're not planning some emotional performance." I closed my eyes, trying to stay calm. The oxygen mask hissed softly with each breath. "I just want to hear what Dad decided," I said. "That's all, right?" She leaned over, her face suddenly very close to mine. "Because you've never made anything all about you, have you?" Her tone was sugary, but there was rage underneath. "Then, she did it. It happened so fast I almost didn't register it." She reached down, fingers gripping the tube that ran from the machine to my mask, and yanked. There was a harsh, ripping sensation, a pop. And then nothing. No more cool air flowing into my burning lungs. No more rhythm, just a terrible, suffocating emptiness. I clawed at my chest, my throat. Panic exploded in my brain like fireworks. The monitor started beeping wildly. I tried to speak, to scream, but all that came out were strangled gasps. Hannah's face hovered above mine, and she smiled. Actually smiled. "Maybe now you'll stop faking it," she whispered. The room tilted. My vision blurred at the edges. I saw spots of white and black, like static. I remember thinking, she really wants me dead. Then the door burst open. A nurse rushed in, followed by another, and shouted, "What happened?" Hannah jumped back, her expression flipping instantly. I don't know," she stammered. She started panicking, and I tried to adjust the tube, but I saw the nurse's eyes flick to the disconnected tubing in her hand. The nurse's face hardened. They shoved an oxygen mask back on my face, started adjusting settings, calling for respiratory support. When my lungs finally filled again, I sobbed with relief and terror. Dr. Collins appeared minutes later, her face pale but composed. She checked my vitals, looked at the nurses, then at Hannah. "I'd like to speak with you, Miss Walker," she said tightly. "Outside, now." They stepped into the hallway. I couldn't hear words, but I saw Dr. Collins' expression go from controlled to ice cold. Hannah gestured wildly, acting shocked, offended, fragile. I lay there, shaking, feeling the pulse in my throat, and something inside me changed. Fear shifted into anger. Not the explosive kind, but the cold, clear kind that makes you plan. 2 days later was the will reading. I was discharged that morning with strict instructions to rest and keep my oxygen on. Dr. Collins insisted I use a portable oxygen concentrator for the meeting. Before I left the hospital, she came into my room alone, closing the door behind her. "Victoria," she said, sitting on the edge of the bed, "I need to tell you something." My chest tightened. "Is it about the tube, Hannah?" "Yes." Her jaw clenched. "I reviewed the security footage from the hallway and your room. It doesn't catch everything, but it clearly shows your sister disconnecting your oxygen tubing, not adjusting it. The nursing staff documented the incident as a suspected deliberate tampering." I swallowed hard. "So, what happens now?" "Right now, it's in the hospital's hands," she said. "They're opening an internal investigation. But off the record, as your doctor, I'm deeply concerned for your safety around her." I nodded, tears stinging my eyes. Then she added, "There's something else. Your father spoke to me a few weeks before he died. He was worried about how others treated your illness. He asked me if, when the time came, I would be willing to make a formal statement about your condition for legal purposes." My breath caught. "He did?" She nodded. "He was a very thoughtful man. I prepared a detailed letter, with all of your test results and my medical opinion. Your lawyer contacted me after his death. She asked if I'd be willing to attend the will reading to clarify some things." I stared at her. "You're coming today?" "I am," Dr. Collins said. "You won't be alone." For the first time in a long time, I felt something like hope. The law office was quiet, all dark wood and framed certificates. The air smelled like paper and old coffee. Mom sat on one side of the long table, eyes red, fingers twisting a tissue. Hannah sat next to her in a sleek black dress, her posture straight, her expression schooled into somber grace. I sat opposite them, my portable oxygen concentrator humming softly at my feet, tubing tucked discreetly against my cheek. Beside me was Miss Parker, Dad's lawyer's sharp gray suit, sharp gray eyes. On my other side was Dr. Collins, calm and steady. Hannah's eyes flickered over Dr. Collins and then back to me. There was a flash of something worry, but she hid it quickly. Ms. Parker cleared her throat. Thank you all for coming. As you know, we're here to read the last will and testament of Mr. Richard Walker. My chest tightened. Hearing his name like that made it real all over again. Ms. Parker went through the formalities first, small bequests to charities, personal items left to specific friends. Then she got to the main part, regarding my estate, investments, and the family home. She read, I make the following decisions. Hannah straightened, ready. To my eldest daughter, Hannah Walker, I leave a monetary sum of $50,000. As recognition of her independent success and the support she has already provided for herself, Hannah's smile faltered. 50,000 was not what she'd been expecting. Ms. Parker continued, the remainder of my estate, including the family home, all liquid investments, and life insurance payouts, I leave in full to my youngest daughter, Victoria Walker, to ensure her long-term medical care, housing, and well-being. The room went silent. Mom gasped. I froze, staring at Miss Parker, sure I'd misheard. Hannah exploded. What? She snapped, slamming her hand on the table. That's ridiculous. That can't be right. Miss Parker didn't flinch. These were your father's explicit instructions. He was of sound mind when he signed this document, witnessed and notarized. Hannah's face went red. Sound mind? He was dying. He was emotional. He was manipulated. Her eyes bore into me. This is what I warned you about, she spat. Victoria's been playing everyone for years. She's not even really sick. She's been exaggerating, faking. That's enough, Dr. Collins said calmly, but there was steel in her voice. Hannah whirled on her. Who even are you? I'm Dr. Emily Collins, Victoria's pulmonologist, she said. And I'm here because your father requested that I provide a medical statement at this meeting. Miss Parker nodded. Yes, she confirmed. Mr. Walker anticipated potential disputes regarding Victoria's condition. Dr. Collins, you may proceed, Hannah scoffed. Oh, please? A doctor who believes her. What a surprise. Dr. Collins ignored her. She placed a folder on the table and looked at Mom first. Mrs. Walker, I understand this is a very emotional time, but I need you to hear this clearly, she said. Victoria has a documented, serious autoimmune condition affecting her lungs and vascular system. Her test results, scans, and clinical history are all consistent. Her oxygen dependence is medically necessary. Without it, she risks organ damage, loss of consciousness, and death. Mom's lips trembled. I didn't realize it was that bad. I've explained it in detail in this report, Dr. Collins said, tapping the folder. Your husband understood. He wanted to ensure Victoria would be taken care of after he was gone. He was not confused. He was practical. Hannah crossed her arms. But I saw something flicker in her eyes, panic, and Dr. Collins added quietly. I also need to inform you that there was a recent incident at the hospital involving deliberate interference with Victoria's oxygen supply. Mom stared at her. Deliberate? My heart hammered. Yes, Dr. Collins replied. Security footage and nursing reports indicate that someone disconnected her oxygen tubing while she was dependent on it, leading to acute respiratory distress. We are investigating the matter internally, and I have recommended that Victoria limit and supervise contact with the individual involved. Hannah shot to her feet. You can't prove anything, she shouted. I was trying to help. She's always turning everyone against me. No one said it was you, Miss Parker interjected softly. But thank you for clarifying. The blood drained from Hannah's face. Mom turned to her slowly. Hannah, she whispered, voice shaking. What did you do? I didn't, Hannah stammered. She's exaggerating. Like always. The tube was loose. I was there, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. You looked me in the eyes and told me maybe now I'd stop faking it. Then you pulled the tube. Tears burned my eyes, but I didn't look away from her. You tried to teach me a lesson, I continued. You almost killed me. The room pulsed with silence. Even the air felt heavy. Hannah looked around wildly, searching for someone to take her side. Mom's face was crumpled with horror. Miss Parker's gaze was cold and professional. Dr. Collins watched her with clinical detachment. "You're all insane," Hannah choked out. "Fine, take the house. Take the money. Clearly that's all you wanted." She grabbed her bag and stormed toward the door. Before leaving, she turned back and pointed at me. "You regret this, Victoria," she said. "You always were Dad's favorite little victim." Then she was gone. The door clicked shut behind her. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Mom broke. She covered her face with her hands and sobbed, shoulders shaking. I stared at the table. My vision kind of doubled from the stress and low oxygen. "Victoria," she whispered eventually. Looking up, mascara streaked. I don't know what to say. I failed you. I failed both of you." I swallowed hard. "You believed her," I said quietly. "For years, even when my body was screaming for help." She nodded, tears spilling over. "I did. I wanted things to be simple. And she was always so composed, so competent. It was easier to believe you were just sensitive, emotional. I'm so sorry." Part of me wanted to hug her. Another part wanted to pull away and protect myself. Dr. Collins packed up her folder. "I'll give you some privacy," she said. "But Victoria, remember what we discussed. Boundaries are important, even with family." She squeezed my shoulder gently and left the room. Ms. Parker cleared her throat. "Legally, everything is clear," she said. "If you have concerns about your safety regarding your sister, we can also explore protective measures. Hospital documentation will help." I nodded slowly. "Maybe," I murmured. "I just need time." When everyone finally filtered out, Mom and I were the last two in the room. She reached for my hand across the table. After a moment, I let her hold it. "I can't change the past," she said softly. "But I want to do better, if you'll let me help you with the house, with your treatment, with everything." I looked at our intertwined fingers, then at her tired, regretful face. "I'm willing to try," I said. "But it has to be different. I won't pretend I'm okay when I'm not. I won't shrink myself to make you or Hannah comfortable." She nodded. "You shouldn't," she whispered. Revenge wasn't a single dramatic act. It wasn't me standing up and watching Hannah get dragged away in handcuffs or begging for forgiveness. My revenge was quieter, longer, but so much more satisfying. First, I gave the hospital permission to share their investigation findings with my lawyer. Documentation mattered. Even if I never pressed criminal charges, knowing it was on record that my story was backed by evidence gave me power. Second, I stopped chasing my sister's approval. I blocked her number. I told Mom that if she chose to maintain a relationship with Hannah, that was her decision, but I would not be in the same room with her again unless it was supervised, and I would never be alone with her. Mom cried, but she agreed. Third, I built something of my own with what Dad left me. The house was old, but it had good bones. I turned one of the spare bedrooms into a small art studio. I started painting again, between treatments and oxygen checks and doctor visits. On days when my lungs cooperated, I'd sit by the big front window and sketch the world outside. I also started a blog, anonymous at first, about living with a chronic illness no one believed. I wrote about doctors who dismissed me, family who thought I was faking, the terror of depending on a machine to breathe. People found it, shared it, commented things like, "This is my life, and my sister is just like yours, and thank you for saying what I couldn't." That's when the idea for the YouTube channel came, a long-form storytelling channel, my voice, my stories, and others' stories if they let me share. Revenge, justice, survival, the messy families behind pretty social media posts. I remember recording the first video, my voice shaking as I said, "Hi, I'm Victoria, I'm 27. And my own sister once ripped out my oxygen tube because she thought I was faking my illness." I posted it, heart pounding, and people listened. Comments poured in. Support, outrage, stories from people with siblings like Hannah, parents like mine, doctors who didn't listen. Every time someone wrote, I thought I was alone, I felt a piece of my old, crushed self straighten up. My revenge became this, turning the worst thing that ever happened to me into something that helped other people feel seen. Hannah wanted me quiet, dependent, and invisible. Instead, my story became loud, powerful, and impossible to ignore. Do I forgive her? No, not yet. Maybe not ever. Forgiveness is not a requirement for healing. What I have done is release the belief that I need her to admit what she did before I can move forward. I know what she did. The hospital knows. My doctor knows. My mother knows. I know. That's enough. Dad's voice echoes in my mind sometimes. When I'm sitting in my studio or checking the oxygen levels on the portable concentrator he made sure I'd always be able to afford. We'll figure it out, he used to say. I've got you, Vic. He was right. We did figure it out. In a way, I am alive. I am breathing with help. Yes, but breathing. I am safe from the person who tried to take that breath away from me. I have a home that's mine, a future shaped around my limits but not defined by them, and a platform where my voice finally matters. That's more than I ever thought I'd have. If you're still here listening to my story, thank you. If you've ever been called a faker, a drama queen, too sensitive, or too much when you were just trying to survive, this is for you. Tell me in the comments. Would you have cut Hannah off completely or tried to keep her in your life? I read everything you write, even if I can't respond to all of it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you want more real stories about revenge, justice, and the messy truth behind perfect families. And remember, sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't hurting them back, it's surviving, healing, and building a life they never believed you deserved.